Hi there, it's Tanya Uester from my page Botanicamy and Alchemy of Soothing Botanic Ingredients. And today I'm doing a live on my new series called the Singles series. So during this Singles series, I just want to quickly share this to the page. There we go. In the Singles series, we will be talking about single essential oils. Not singles as in the app Tinder, okay? So basically we are going to start talking about the single essential oils, how they can support various body systems, but more than that, how we can use them in daily life. All right, so basically what I am going to do is I'm just going to start waving at people as they start coming in for today's live. I can see there's already people logging in, brilliant. I'm just going to give Facebook another 20 or 30 seconds tops to get the video live on my Botanicamy page and Alchemy of Soothing Botanic Ingredients. It's really exciting. It's October. It's a new month, and I woke up this morning with a little bit of thunder and rain here in Pretoria, and it's really exciting for me because I love the rainy weather. It's just one of those things that cleanses, and that's coincidentally what we're talking about today. So basically, lavender is the topic of choice today. And lavender is one of those exceptionally versatile essential oils. And in Latin, the name actually means to clean. So let's kick off our new series with our very first episode called Lavender. All right. And this new series, we're also going to incorporate a little something fun. So we are going to kick off today by asking you as my audience coming here for all this continued education to come and put in your comments about a couple of myths or misconceptions or whether you think they're truths. So we're going to start today off by the first one that you need to answer from. Oh, we've got Zahira logging in. Fantastic. Hello. And hello, Jill. Nice to see you here today. If you do say hi, obviously I'll be able to see your name and then I can give you a shout out. So please come and say hi. All right. So the first myth. So how this is going to work with the Mythbuster or whether it's a truth, what you need to do is there'll be two questions today. And when I name the first one, you're going to type in the comments number 1 point, for instance, for example, and you're either going to say it's a truth or it's a myth. Okay, so we'll have two of those running today, and then right at the end, I'm going to reveal the truth. All right, so myth or truth, those are the two answers you've got to give. Question number 1. Lavender is estrogenic and therefore is a hormone disruptor. All right, so what do you think of that one? Is that a myth or is that a truth? Hello, Lithia, welcome, fantastic. I'm just going to do some waving. Hello, Cara. Hi, Amanda and Brigitte, fantastic. Hi, Marie, you're also in. So there we go. Let those comments come through. So question number 1, lavender essential oil is estrogenic and therefore it is a hormone disruptor. And what you do need to say there, that is a truth. Or is that a myth? Fantastic. I can see some of the answers coming through. There's a couple of people saying myth and false. And a not. The word not is coming through. All right. So the word that you are looking for that you need to write is number 1. So you've got to type 1.0 and either say myth or truth. All right. So that was question number 1. Let's move swiftly to question number 2, and that is that diffusion of lavender essential oil is toxic around pets. Is that a myth or is that a truth? So whatever your answer is, that is the question is diffusion of essential oils around pets is toxic. Is that a myth for number 2 or is that a truth? I'll hopefully see those comments coming through soon because I know there is definitely a delay on Facebook. All right, so then let's kick off today's continued education series about lavender, and then we'll also get to the correct answer for both of these questions at the end of my chat today. All right, so let's look at lavender in first, obviously, the scientific part of it, because that's what I do. I like the science part. So the main chemical constituents in lavender is, of course, monoterpene alcohols as well as esters, and the monoterpene alcohol, of course, being linalool, and the ester is linalool acetate. All right, so both of these chemical constituents. Oh, I can see all the myths and the truths coming through. That's brilliant. Fantastic. I've got a really clever audience today. We'll get to the correct answers right at the end. So basically these two constituents, the linalool and the linalool acetate, have been shown through studies to affect the central nervous system through GABA mechanism. Now, for those of you that have a little bit more scientific background, remember about the vagus nerve, and this is where the gut health comes in, even with lavender, which to me is really exciting because gut health is my passion. And basically, both of these chemical constituents play a role on the GABA system. We need GABA. Our gut bacteria, when in balance, produce GABA, all right? And that is due or partly due to why lavender, and more in the sense linalool oil and linalool acetate, actually has a really calming and soothing effect on the body, whether it is mentally and emotionally or even physically to the body. Okay, so the alcohols, in other words, this case the linalool in lavender, the aromatic use of linalool includes relaxing aromas, helps soothe anxious feelings. All right, if you're going to be using it topically, oh, there's more people coming in. Hello, Joanne. I haven't seen you in a while. And Catherine is in. Hello, I'm waving at you. You'll have to go and watch the replay, Catherine. You're behind. There were 2 questions that were asked, but it's no stress. You can definitely go and watch the replay and then comment later. So the alcohols, just to get back there, the linalool aromatically is relaxing. When you're going to be using it topically, the linalools have got a repellent activity. They have cleansing properties, and it also helps the skin to look young and healthy. And when you're using them internally, when that bottle says it's a food supplement, very important, you do need to find a brand where you're actually allowed to buy the label saying that it's safe for internal use. If it says not internal, please don't use internal. You're just going to really do a lot of harm to yourself. But if you can use your specific brand of essential oil internally, it will support the circulatory system and it calms the nervous system. All right, so that is what the alcohols, in other words, the linalool in lavender does for you. And then if we start looking at the linalool acetate, which is an ester, a monoterpene ester, usually if you use these oils aromatically, they can be very relaxing, soothing, and balancing. When you use them topically, they are rejuvenating to the skin, soothes the tissues, protects against certain kinds of environmental threats, which is really nice to know. And internally, again, only when you've got an oil that says food supplement, varies on a case-by-case basis, because here there are so many different types of essential oils, and the chemical constituents that are in there in combination with the esters actually play quite a big role in the entire chemical profile of how these essential oils are going to support your body internally. So some esters can support the health of the cardiovascular system, the immune system, the nervous and the digestive systems, and then also other esters are not recommended for internal consumption at all. So you really do need to be careful here and listen to what that food label says for you. All right, so let's move on to where Doterra sourced their lavender from, because that is the essential oil brand that I use. And the reason for that is obviously because there's a lot of rigorous lab testing that gets done on the oils, and I like the fact that I can look at the bottom of my essential oil bottle and get the batch code from there and go and type it into a website called sourcetoyou.com, and a third-party lab, so it's not even a doTERRA lab, it's a third-party lab that then presents the results for that specific batch of oil. And as a scientist, hey guys, that's something that really is just right up my alley. So I use essential oils that are certified, and I can see that they're pure, that they don't have any pesticides or fertilizers in them, and that there's no cross-contamination from heavy metals, okay? So let's look at doTERRA's essential oil, the lavender essential oil specifically. The lavender from doTERRA is sourced from France and Bulgaria, and the reason for that is because this type of species of plant, Lavender angustifolia, actually thrives in that kind of habitat, which also means the seasons and the soil conditions are suitable for that species of plant, which means no pesticides or fertilizers are required to make this plant grow quite happily and be very nutritious, all right? In other words, for itself, right? So that it's a healthy plant, because if we have a higher quality plant being harvested, we'll have a higher quality essential oil in the end, especially if nothing is added or taken away. So usage tips for lavender usually includes restful sleep, diffusing lavender oil at bedtime, for instance. You can also use doTERRA's lavender essential oil. The 5 milliliter bottle in South Africa is actually marked as being a food supplement, so you can use that internally to improve or support good quality sleep, but also to reduce anxious feelings. Always adhere to the safety instructions of how many drops. There's always a limit, just as you can't take 20 over-the-counter medication tablets, you can't take 20 drops of lavender at the same, all at one go. So always just adhere to the safety instructions when you are using it internally. You can also use lavender very successfully when you cook and you bake to enhance citrus flavors. Bet you didn't know that one. You can also do a very relaxing evening bath soak where you make a bath salt with Epsom salts and a little bit of Himalayan salt and baking soda. A recipe for that, if I could just quickly go out of the top of my head, if you take a cup of Epsom salts, for instance, with a tablespoon of Himalayan salt or the bigger crystals and a tablespoon of baking soda, and you put that into a glass jar with around 15 drops of lavender, and you mix it up really nicely, then you can add about 2 tablespoons of that to a bath, and then you've got a really nice and soothing and relaxing evening bath before you go to bed, which is going to just set the mood for you to be able to go and sleep a little bit more peacefully. It's also a really good oil to use to freshen your linen closet. You'll see that I actually posted a recipe earlier in the week. I like to clean my mattresses as well as my electric blanket that obviously is on my bed through winter, and then I do need to take it off, and then I need to refresh it before I dry it, and I wrap it up really nicely and cover it and close it up to get ready to be stored in my cupboard for summer season until I can take it out next winter. So lavender is really good for that as well. And it is amazing to have a bottle of lavender around for occasional skin irritations. And I'll actually, by example, tell you where I keep my lavender in my home specifically for those reasons. So if we're going to look at the words that are associated with lavender. Lavender has got antibacterial properties. It's got anti-inflammatory properties. There's actually my Science Monday article that I posted on my Botanically page. There was a very nice article there showing what the anti-inflammatory action of lavender looks like. It's also anti-venomous and calmative, and then also a big word, cytophylactic. Now, cytophylactic basically just means cell regenerating. So it stimulates cell regeneration. All right, so you can see that lavender is incredibly versatile because we can use it topically, aromatically, as well as internally, especially if you've got an oil that is certified safe and pure to be used in that manner for medicinal purposes. So let's start looking at ways or the top uses for lavender essential oil. And first one that comes to mind is obviously sleep, because it's really good in calming the nerves. And if you do have a brain that can't switch off at night, you can always add a boost to the lavender essential oil by adding things like cedarwood or vetiver, for example. All right. I'm going to talk about essential oil safety right at the end as well, just so you understand how to start using these oils safely. Also, because lavender is so calming, you can use it to soothe anxious feelings, and a lot of people actually find quite a lot of comfort from using lavender diluted with carrier oil on their jawline in the evening because of teeth grinding. And it's also a really good idea to have a really dilute solution of lavender when babies start teething, okay, because it's really calming and anti-inflammatory. I really love lavender for this aspect, and this is for sunburn, because it stimulates the cell regeneration of cell that is damaged. You can make your own at home after sun care by using aloe vera gel, hopefully with no additional preservatives and things in there that are too hectic. I always look for something that only has citric acid and none of the other nasties in there which are bioaccumulating. And then you add some lavender essential oil to the aloe vera gel, and then you've got in an instant a really nice aftercare or after sun natural solution. Allergies and hay fever, so seasonal threats. This is something that lavender is really good with, specifically because of some of the camphor constituents that are in there, the 1.8 cineol, for instance. And if you combine lavender, for instance, with lemon and peppermint in a diffuser, it's going to go a really long way in supporting you with when the environmental threat of pollen and dust becomes really high, especially at this time of year when we have a lot of flowers blooming. Okay, so keep that one in mind. Very good around cuts and wounds and minor skin irritations and burns because of the cell regenerating effect that lavender actually stimulates. And this is where my top tip comes in. I have lavender next to my stove because I bake and cook a lot. And I do occasionally, by working too quickly and trying to do things too quickly, burn myself. And I usually just have the lavender right next to the stove and put it onto that burn. And if it gets on there quickly enough, I don't even form a blister. Okay, so lavender is something that I have in my bedroom for sleep at night, but also something that I have in my kitchen to the ready when I need it next to my stove. Also, a very good one to have around for bug bites and, for instance, skin irritations that can develop into hives because it's so soothing to the skin. It actually also takes away the itchiness. So for those little mozzies that are going to start coming out soon, for all those itchy bites, especially on children, always apply the lavender. And then if you need an extra boost, I always add a bit of tea tree to that as well. It just takes the sting or the itchiness out quite quickly, and it's especially beneficial for things like bee stings as well, because of that effect that the lavender has. That big word, hang on one second, it's anti-venomous. Sorry, I couldn't to access file 13 then. All right, so basically bee stings, lavender is a good one to have around. I know I've got a friend who's a beekeeper, so for her, having lavender around is really essential, especially when she goes to see her bees when they're a little bit more aggressive. All right, so then another thing is blood pressure. There's actually quite a lot of research online when you go through PubMed where they talk about lavender being... the word is hypotensor, okay, and that is the medical term for it. But what that basically means is it has the ability to lower blood pressure, all right? And this is through actually inhalation, where there are studies, human trials, where they show that through inhalation of lavender, that the systolic blood pressure was actually, systolic as well as the diastolic blood pressure, was actually brought down. I'm not going to say hugely. It's not like you going to be okay 1 second and then your blood pressure drops so badly that if you've got low blood pressure that you're actually going to feel faint. But it definitely does have a blood lowering effect, which is obviously a really good thing to have around when you are someone that is dealing with those kind of health challenges. And head tension. A lot of people suffer from quite a lot of head tension, especially during stressful periods. And because linalool has been shown, especially also in clary sage, where it's in a very high concentration, to have the ability to bring down cortisol levels in the body, obviously lavender is going to be really good for head tension there as well. Okay, so the way or the areas in my home where I use lavender all the time is in a diffuser, because it's so soothing and calming. I use it in my moisturizer that I put on my body and in my face cream every single day. I have it next to my stove, as I told you, for those minor burns. Really good as after sun care for bee stings and general bites. And then also, I like baking with lavender, but here I prefer not necessarily to use the Lavender Essential Oil because it's got a very potent and very bitter flavor. So I tend to grow Margaret Roberts lavender species in my garden because that is the edible lavender. There's a lot of lavender species out there. Not all of them are edible, please take note, but the Margaret Roberts species specifically is edible. So I like to harvest my flowers and then I dry them. And then I store them in a glass jar in the fridge because then they stay fresher for longer. And when I do bake biscuits, putting those lavender flowers in the biscuits just gives that really nice, comforting and soothing effect without it being overpowering and perhaps even tasting even soapy. Plus, when you are baking, the chemical constituents are changed slightly, so the therapeutic benefit will reduce when you do put them into a hot oven if you are going to be using that essential oil. Right, so let's get back to a little bit of the essential oil safety, but also the myths. So let's do the safety first. There is I did a little bit of digging, and please remember, although lavender is a really safe oil, it's generally regarded as one of the oils that isn't really toxic at all. And a lot of the lavenders, when they are pure, are actually advised that you can use it neat on your skin. I wouldn't do it chronically though. Because there has been studies where they've shown that especially people like aromatherapists or people who do tend to use oils neat on their skin every single day of their lives do at some stage develop a skin sensitivity or a dermatitis effect. Okay, so I'm a firm believer in always diluting with a carrier oil. I have got a very sensitive skin though. I've got a very sensitive constitution, so I'm always on the safety side. I don't want to oversensitize myself to lavender. Why would I want to do that? Because then I need to stop using it, and I really love lavender essential oil. Then another thing to take into consideration is that there is some reports that it may interact with anti-seizure medication. So if you are someone that has epilepsy, for example, it's always a good idea to first go to a medical practitioner and just check in with them to see whether the lavender that you are using is going to be safe. And then there are definitely also reports where I know, although it's supposed to be very calming and soothing oil, there are children that actually get stimulated by the effect of lavender, all right, because of the 1.8 cineol that is there in a very small concentration. And this is where I'm going to just give you another top tip. when you're purchasing oils and you're not sure whether they are actually 100% pure, please take note that lavender is one of the essential oils on the market that is most adulterated, because they tend to mix lavandin, which is a completely different species of plant. It's the spike lavender in layman's terms. They tend to mix lavandin with true lavender because lavandin is much easier and cheaper to produce, which is awesome if you want the lavandin effect. But if you're actually wanting the lavender effect, that could be a problem. And the reason why I'm saying that is lavender therapeutic properties are sedative, relaxant, and a hypertensor, the blood pressure thing. Whereas Lavandula latifolia, which is spike lavender, which is lavandin, actually has a stimulant and an expectorant effect. So if you're purchasing lavandin, it's probably better for respiratory conditions, and it is really good for the waking you up because it's a stimulant. And if you're looking for the calming sedative effect of lavender, if your lavender has actually been adulterated by the addition of lavandin, the camphor content and the cineol content is higher, which also means it's going to be stimulating. It's not going to give you that calming effect that you want. Okay, so always make sure that you're purchasing 100% pure oil. All right. Then let's go to the myths and the facts. Okay, so number one, this is the fun part. The first question was, lavender oil is a hormone disruptor because it is estrogenic. All right, so a lot of you answered myth. I'm so very proud of my audience. You guys have got it right. So Robert Tisserand, who's sort of the safety father or guru, shall we call it, of aromatherapy, he's done quite a lot of, or he has quite a lot of information in his really good safety books. And lavender has been shown to definitely not be estrogenic. Okay, so it doesn't mimic estrogen, nor does it enhance the body's own estrogens. It is therefore not a hormone disruptor, because there is a lot of information floating out there saying that lavender has given little boys, when they've used lavender essential oils, that they actually develop boobs. Okay, completely. The study was incredibly flawed. There was a lot of other things that they didn't look at. So yes, lavender is not estrogenic. It does not mimic estrogen. So for those of you that said myth, well done, proud of you. Number two, diffusion around pets is toxic. And this is a hot topic. I have cats. I'm an absolute cat fur kid lover. And I actually follow a vet called Dr. Janet Rourke, who's actually very good with essential oils. And she runs her practice by incorporating essential oils into her routines. And it is a myth. So diffusing essential oils around cats being toxic, it's a myth. So for those of you that have got it correct, well done. So essential oils are definitely highly concentrated. This is the truth, obviously. And for that reason, we need to be a little more cautious when we're using essential oils around our pets. They are teeny tiny bodies. So you would need to be as cautious with them as you would be with essential oils around babies because of their really small body weight, okay? But diffusing lavender specifically has been shown in shelter situations to provide calming effect for pets. So there we go. Lavender is one of those that you can put in a diffuser. I'm not going to say overdose. And if you have one of those diffusers that switches on and off automatically, intermittent settings, that's even better around small babies and as well as cats. And always leave a door open. Cats are very intuitive, so are dogs. If they don't like the essential oil, they're just simply going to leave the room. All right, so there we go. I had a clever audience today. Well done on answering most of both of the questions correctly. Both of those were myths. So I hope you learned something today. Hope you go and grab that bottle of lavender essential oil, because it's really beneficial and incredibly versatile, and something that you can incorporate very safely into a daily wellness routine to support your health. All right, so hopefully I see you guys all again next week, Thursday, for episode 2 in my very new Singles series. Thank you for tuning in, and see you soon.